I was still wearing my library badge, the corners curling from too many washes, and my worn-out flats were squishing rainwater into my socks. But there I was, standing in Amanda's laundry room, folding her son's Spider-Man pajamas for the third time that week. Leo's cartoon echoed from the living room, some high-pitched chipmunk laughter, and the scent of microwaved mac and cheese clung to everything like old perfume. I didn't even remember saying yes. I rarely did anymore. Amanda had texted me while I was still on my second shift shelving returns. Quick errand. Can you stay with Leo? That was code. Her errands lasted hours and usually involved eucalyptus towels and quiet music. Meanwhile, I'd trudge into her house, past the same pile of delivery boxes, the same unanswered mail, and take over as the unofficial after-school nanny. Leo ran to me when I opened the door, arms around my legs like I was a life raft. He always did that. Auntie Rin, I saved you the blue fruit snack. He waved the little pack proudly, already sticky. I smiled, patting his head. You're my favorite person today. You say that every time, he grinned. It was true. Leo was the only part of Amanda's world that didn't make me feel like I was suffocating. Dinner was boxed mac and cheese, Amanda's special request. I added peas and a splash of milk to make it feel less like a desperate college meal. While Leo ate cross-legged on the couch, I ran to the corner store and picked up almond milk and shampoo for Amanda. She'd left a crumpled note with a smiley face and her card on the counter. The cashier didn't even flinch. He knew I wasn't Amanda. When I got back, the living room was a storm of Legos and crusted plates. I cleaned without thinking. It was muscle memory now. Kitchen, toys, laundry, and somehow still smiling when Amanda walked in 3 hours later wearing flip-flops and a face that glowed like she'd swallowed the sun. Thanks, sis, she said, tossing her keys onto the couch. They did wonders on my lower back. You have to try it sometime. Sounds nice, I murmured, drying my hands on a dish rag that smelled faintly of bleach and cheese. Amanda poured herself a glass of white wine and kicked off her sandals. Oh! I forgot to tell you, we're planning a trip to Hawaii. March. Mom, Tom, the girls, everyone. You'll take Leo, right? I blinked. What? She laughed, as if I'd misheard her. You know, so we can actually relax. You're basically his other mom anyway. She took a long sip, eyes on her phone. I stared at her. The rain hit the windows harder now, like even the sky was trying to interrupt. I looked down at the towel in my hand, damp and balled tight like my chest. Am I invited? I asked, the words small and brittle. She glanced up, surprised. What? Oh, well, it's mostly adults. And you hate flying. Don't you always say that? I said I hate turbulence, I replied. Amanda waved it off. Same thing. Besides, you're not doing anything important in March, are you? I didn't answer. I just kept wiping down the counter, each stroke slower than the last. My silence stretched long between us, thick, uncomfortable. Amanda didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care. That was the thing with Amanda. She had a gift for walking through life like everyone was a prop in her one-woman show. Mom encouraged it. She once told me, your sister has ambition. You? You're dependable. That night, after I tucked Leo into bed, he insisted on a silly story about pirate librarians. I stood in the hallway a moment longer than I should have. Amanda's laughter bubbled from the other room as she scrolled through her phone, making notes about bikinis and cocktails. I could have said something. I could have reminded her that I worked 50 hours a week, that I had plans of my own, that I existed. Instead, I turned off the hallway light and shut the door behind me. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the puddles remained. I turned 33 on a Tuesday. I remember because the library printer jammed 6 times before noon, and the break room coffee tasted like burned dust. Somewhere between reshelving returned biographies and fixing the self-checkout machine, a coworker named Grace, who barely knew my last name, left a small candle on my desk. It smelled like cinnamon and had a little note. "You always keep things running. Happy birthday." It was the only gift I got. I checked my phone during lunch. No text from Mom. Nothing from Amanda. A few promotional emails about birthday discounts and one group message from the library staff asking if someone could cover Saturday. My fingers hovered over my contacts, but I didn't press send. I told myself it was fine. It wasn't fine. The afternoon drizzle outside made the windows look like they were melting. Oregon had a way of being gray in every season. I stood at the circulation desk watching the parking lot fill with puddles, letting the quiet stretch inside me. My shift ended late again, and I was halfway through pulling on my coat when my phone buzzed. "Amanda, spa emergency. Can you keep Leo tonight?" Just this once. She always said that. Just this once. The same way someone says, "It's only 5 minutes," while you're still waiting 20 later. I stared at the message, thumb paused. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. But 10 minutes later, I was in Amanda's driveway, umbrella flipping backward in the wind, Leo jumping into my arms with chocolate on his cheeks. "Look, I made you something," he grinned, waving a folded piece of paper covered in crayon hearts. Inside, it said, "Happy birthday, Auntie Rin. You smell nice and hug soft." It was the best card I'd ever gotten. Amanda barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, right. Happy birthday, I guess." She was already slipping into her coat, adjusting a headband. "He's been fed. Mostly. There's cereal if he gets hungry again." I didn't ask where she was going. I just nodded. That was our routine. Amanda left, and I became the background parent. Back at my place, Leo kicked off his shoes, scattering goldfish crackers from his jacket pocket. I turned on the heat and microwaved frozen nuggets. We ate them on the couch under a blanket that smelled like old detergent. Leo told me about a frog he saw in the schoolyard and how one kid tried to lick it. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was real, and his voice didn't sound like static. After I tucked him in, I finally looked at my phone again. There was a missed call from Mom, voicemail only. I pressed play. "Hi, honey. Just checking in. Need to know what brand detergent Amanda uses. She says yours smells better. Anyway, hope you're okay. Call if you get a minute." She didn't mention the date. Didn't mention me. I sat at my tiny kitchen table, bowl of cereal in front of me. The milk was watery and the flakes had gone limp. The overhead light buzzed faintly, a bulb dying slow. My birthday dinner. My celebration. That was when I said it. Not loud. Not even clear. But the words came out like they had been waiting in my bones. I don't want to do this anymore. They just hovered in the air, thin and shaky, but they were mine. No applause followed. No lightning bolt of change. Just the drip of rain from the window ledge and the hum of the fridge. But something shifted. Not in the world, just in me. It was the first time I said it out loud. An hour later, I crawled into bed, fully dressed, the crayon card tucked on my nightstand. My phone buzzed again, screen lighting up the dark. "Amanda, Hawaii's booked. We leave March 12th. Don't be late picking up Leo." "No, please. No, thank you." Just another assumption, another order dressed up like routine. I didn't respond. Instead, I stared at the ceiling and counted my breaths, letting the silence fill the cracks no one else seemed to see. I didn't plan to ruin dinner. I just said no. The roast chicken on Amanda's table smelled like rosemary and lemon, steam curling upward like a polite excuse. Candles flickered in their tall glass jars. Leo had drawn place cards, Grandma with 2 A's, Uncle Tom in crooked letters, and Auntie Rin with a smiling sun above it. Everything was set for harmony, for the illusion of togetherness. But underneath, it felt cold, like we were all holding our breath, waiting for someone to mess up the script. Earlier that week, Mrs. Henley had stopped me by the mailboxes. She leaned on her cane, eyes soft but sharp. "Silence isn't kindness, sweetheart," she said, tapping her envelope against my wrist. "It's just camouflage." I smiled and nodded like I always did, but the words stayed with me. Tonight, Amanda wore a coral sundress and poured wine with a flair that suggested everything was under control. She clinked her glass and announced, "Okay, so, big news. Hawaii is booked. Maui, oceanfront, March 12th to 19th. Leo can't wait." She looked at me, beaming. "You'll take him on the morning flight with his snacks, right?" Everyone turned to me like they were waiting for me to nod, to smile, to say, "Of course." Instead, I placed my fork down and said, "Actually, I won't be going." Amanda blinked. "What?" "I've already made plans. A wellness retreat upstate. I booked it months ago for my birthday. My time." She let out a laugh, sharp around the edges. "Seriously? You're bailing on family for a juice cleanse?" I held her gaze. "I need space, Amanda. Time for myself." Tom cleared his throat awkwardly. Nancy sipped her wine, pretending her napkin needed adjusting. Amanda leaned back. "Wow, you're really going to make this about you? After everything I juggle? You mean everything I carry?" I said quietly, "I've been paying your mortgage for over a year." That made the silverware pause midair. Amanda stood. "What? You were behind 3 months. Leo needed a roof." I stepped in. Nancy opened her mouth, but closed it again. Even Tom looked down at his plate. Amanda's face twisted, rage, shame, something tangled. "You think that gives you a right to guilt me? To embarrass me at dinner?" "I think," I said slowly, "it's time I stopped pretending this is normal." The air went still. Leo had gone quiet, watching from the end of the table with wide eyes. And then Amanda slapped me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Just her hand connecting with my cheek, sudden and sharp, enough to sting but not bruise. The candles didn't flicker. The chicken didn't fall. But something else broke. I stood there, my fingers brushing the warmth rising on my face. I waited for someone, Nancy, Tom, anyone, to say something. No one did. Amanda looked triumphant for half a second, then confused when no one backed her. I looked around the room, the people I'd folded myself around for years, and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I picked up my purse, walked past the sideboard stacked with unopened mail, and let myself out. No one followed. Outside, the night was cool. Damp sidewalks shimmered under streetlights. My cheek still pulsed, but it wasn't the pain that lingered, it was the silence that followed it. Back at home, I made tea I didn't drink. The apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and resignation. I sat at my desk, opened my old laptop, and stared at the budget spreadsheet I hadn't touched since last tax season. Every line item stared back like a receipt for all the parts of myself I'd given away. Rent, groceries, Leo's field trip fund. Amanda's vet bill from the time she forgot to pick up her dog. Line after line. I scrolled down and opened another tab. Oregon Department of Human Services, Child Protective Services reporting form. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just sat there, letting the screen glow into the quiet room as the cursor blinked. I'd said no, and for the first time, it felt like a beginning, not a betrayal. I didn't cry after the slap. I didn't scream. I opened my laptop. The screen lit up my living room in cold light. Outside, a light drizzle tapped against the window pane like someone knocking but not brave enough to come in. The silence in my apartment was complete. No TV hum, no microwave spinning, no child's laugh echoing down the hall. I stared at the DHS website for what felt like hours, rereading the same sentence over and over. If you suspect a child is being neglected or emotionally harmed, you can report it anonymously or with your name. My hand hovered over the mouse. I wasn't trying to destroy anyone, I told myself. I just wanted it to stop. I filled in the blanks slowly, dates, times, examples. I uploaded screenshots of text messages, compiled bank statements showing money I'd sent to Amanda's mortgage, school supplies, doctor visits. There was even a copy of a birthday card Leo had made for me, with a stick figure hugging another figure labeled you. In the middle of it all, Amanda called. I didn't answer. Then the voicemail came. You're tearing this family apart. Leo cried for hours last night. If he grows up anxious or confused, it'll be on you. I replayed it twice and then added it to the file. That evening, someone knocked at my door. My heart leapt, thinking it might be Amanda again. But it was Mrs. Henley, holding a loaf of banana bread wrapped in foil. She didn't ask questions. She just handed it over and said, sometimes you have to break the silence so others know how loud it was. Her words lingered longer than the smell of cinnamon. The next morning, I got the call. Hi, this is Lucas from CPS. We've reviewed your intake. We'll be opening a case and scheduling a home visit within the week. You've listed yourself as a potential temporary guardian. I swallowed hard. Yes. Lucas had a calm, almost rehearsed tone. He asked follow-up questions. I answered as honestly as I could. The apartment never felt smaller. I suddenly saw everything through another lens. Were Leo's shoes in a proper place? Was there food a child would like? Was the guest bedroom even ready? Amanda texted again. You've always been jealous. Admit it. That's what this is about. I didn't respond. Later that week, as I was reshelving books at the library, I looked up and saw her. Amanda. She had Leo with her, his hoodie pulled over his head, clutching his backpack like it could keep him from flying apart. Amanda, I started, but she cut me off. I need 5 minutes. Her voice was tight, too calm. Not here. Please. We stepped out to the side entrance, near the alley where the delivery trucks came. The air was damp and smelled like old paper and exhaust. She knelt next to Leo, kissed his forehead, and whispered, Go wait in the car, baby. Leo looked at me. I gave him the smallest smile I could manage. He didn't return it. When she stood up again, Amanda's mascara was smudged, but her jaw was clenched like stone. Fix this, she said. You're hurting him. I didn't raise my voice. You did that, Amanda. I'm done being the bandage. Her eyes narrowed. You're unbelievable. No, I said. I've just stopped disappearing. She left without another word. That night, I got another voicemail. Lucas again. Hi, Aaron. We're recommending a temporary custody change. Please prepare for a home check. A caseworker will be in touch by Monday. I stood in my hallway, the banana bread still uneaten on the counter, and listened to the message 3 times. My fingers were trembling. Not from fear. From something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. No one screamed in the courtroom. That made it worse. There's something about silence in a room meant for conflict. It sits heavy, a thick coat of paint that refuses to dry. The beige walls, the hum of the air conditioning, the faint scrape of someone's shoes against the linoleum floor, everything about that morning in family court felt antiseptic, like grief wrapped in a brochure. Amanda sat 2 rows ahead of me, her lawyer whispering into her ear like a mosquito she refused to swat away. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun, her makeup flawless. She wore white. I don't know if it was intentional, but it looked like a costume. Leo sat with the child advocate, clutching a small plush lion I'd given him last Christmas. He didn't look at either of us. Lucas from CPS nodded to me when I entered. He had a brown folder in his lap and a calm I couldn't fake. The judge, Franklin, firm but fair, read from the report first. Neutral words, delivered in a neutral voice. But I felt the weight in every sentence. Patterns of neglect, emotional instability, inconsistent home routines, supervision gaps. Amanda's lawyer tried to cut in. My client deeply regrets any oversight and is undergoing therapy to better manage the demands of single motherhood, he said smoothly. The sister, while well-meaning, lacks legal training or parental authority. The judge blinked slowly, like processing a file download. Ms. Whitaker, you may speak. I stood. My voice didn't shake. I've documented over 2 years of caregiving. I have records of payments made toward Amanda's mortgage, grocery receipts, school pickup schedules I handled, medical appointments. And I have screenshots of messages where I was told, not asked, to take Leo. I handed the folders over. Lucas had already reviewed them, but it mattered to lay them out. Then the child advocate stood, finally speaking. She held up a drawing. Crayon scribbles, but clear enough. Leo in a small bed with a nightlight. The words in the corner made my chest seize. I like Andy's house. It's quiet. I can sleep there. Amanda turned, her face unreadable. Nancy and Tom sat in the back, unmoving. Tom kept his arms crossed. Nancy looked at her purse like it might explain the weather. Judge Franklin exhaled through his nose. Given the documentation, Leo's expressed preferences, and CPS's recommendation, temporary custody is granted to Ms. Erin Whitaker. Supervised visitation for MS. Amanda Whitaker to be arranged biweekly through the county's family support program. Amanda didn't move. The gavel tapped once. Outside the courtroom, the heat hit us like a second verdict, thick, dry, unrelenting. I didn't know where to stand. Lucas shook my hand gently. You did the right thing, he said. He'll be safe with you. Nancy walked by without a word. I watched her heels click down the hallway like punctuation marks. Tom gave me a short nod before following her. Amanda came up behind me. Her voice was quiet, venom wrapped in velvet. You ruined everything. I didn't flinch. No, I said. You handed me the pieces. Her eyes narrowed. For a second, she looked like someone drowning, but I couldn't be her life raft anymore. She turned and left. I found Leo by the fountain, looking up at a seagull tracing the roofline of the courthouse. Do I live with you now? He asked, his voice so soft I barely caught it. I crouched down beside him, brushing hair from his forehead. Yes, sweetheart, I said, squeezing his hand gently. You do. Leo placed a pencil drawing on my fridge. It's us, he said. You're smiling. And I was. Not the forced smile I'd practiced through years of tolerance, but the soft kind that comes from quiet mornings, school lunches packed without rush, and Tuesday evenings spent building Lego cities on the living room floor. The kind of smile that slips in without asking permission. It was October 2023, and fall had once again turned our street into a leaf-blown painting. My apartment, once cold and spare, now carried traces of life. A pile of storybooks by the couch, a half-completed science fair poster on the dining table, a permanent tea stain on the countertop I'd stopped trying to scrub out. In the mornings, I made chamomile while Leo read over his spelling words. We kept a grocery list taped to the fridge, and every Thursday, we made banana pancakes, his idea. There were still tired days, still moments I doubted myself. But not like before. Not the kind that silences you from the inside out. Amanda texted every so often. Nothing violent, nothing urgent. Just fragments. I miss how things used to be. Leo's birthday is coming up. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because silence, I'd learned, was no longer my enemy. Sometimes, it was a choice. Tonight was author night at Leo's elementary school. He wore the blue sweater I'd knit for him last Christmas and held his notebook like a treasure map. The cafeteria smelled of construction paper, coffee, and orange slices. Kids fidgeted on folding chairs. Parents whispered encouragement. When it was Leo's turn, he cleared his throat, then began. My hero is my aunt. She listens and never yells. She lets me put stickers on the fridge. She makes toast with cinnamon sugar. She reads 2 bedtime stories, even when she's tired. When I have bad dreams, she doesn't get mad. He paused, looked at me, then added. She stayed. I pressed my hands into my lap to keep from crying. His teacher gave me a quiet thumbs up. And Mrs. Henley, seated beside me, squeezed my arm gently. Back home, Leo went straight to bed, exhausted from the adrenaline. I dimmed the lights, turned on soft jazz from the speaker, and stood for a moment in the kitchen. The drawing was still on the fridge. In it, I had round eyes and a small smile. Leo had drawn himself taller than me. I opened the drawer. There, wrapped in faded linen, was the porcelain teacup. The one they never let me touch. Amanda had once said, "You're too clumsy with nice things," when I was 11. I had believed her. I held it up to the light. The gold trim shimmered faintly under the pendant lamp. I didn't drink from it. I didn't need to. I placed it on the middle shelf of the bookcase, next to the photo of Leo in his Halloween pirate costume. It looked oddly at home there, not as a weapon, not as a relic. Just a reminder that I had survived things even delicate things could outlast. Then I sat down with my journal. On the first page, I wrote, "These are the rules I now live by. Love doesn't ask you to disappear. Boundaries aren't betrayals. Silence can be power, but only if you choose it. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. Staying for someone can mean leaving someone else behind." I paused, looked at the lamp, the teacup, the fridge full of crayons and magnets and life. Then I wrote one more line. This story isn't about punishment. It's about permission. And for the first time in a long time, I closed the journal without fear. Leo's drawing still hangs on my fridge, a quiet reminder that healing doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives in small hands, soft mornings, and the courage to stop apologizing for your boundaries. I used to believe love meant saying yes even when it hurt. But real love, the kind that lasts, makes space for honesty, for rest, for being seen. In this life, we don't always choose the roles we're given, but we can choose the rules we live by. If this story touched something in you, I invite you to share your thoughts. Maybe it's time we all gave ourselves permission to stay, just like I did.